This is page 25 of the Coding for Beginners Using Scratchbook, and we are learning how to do sliders here. So one problem with what we had before was every time we want to do something different, we have to go in here and change how many times we want to repeat, and that means that we also have to change how much we want to turn down here, and changing this repeat and then changing this. So we got to change 4 numbers every time we do it. So we're going to make that a little bit easier by adding something called a variable. And a variable is just a number that the computer stores, and it's called a variable because its value can vary or change. So we're going to create 2 new variables, one called shapes and one called sides. And shapes is for the number of shapes that we're going to draw, and sides is the number of sides for each item that we're going to draw. And those are under the data group here, and so we want to make a variable here, and we're going to call this one shapes, and I'm going to click on OK. And we're going to make another variable, and we're going to call that sides, and we're going to click on OK. And it says make sure the boxes next to the new variables are checked so that they appear on the stage. So they'll appear here if the check boxes are on. If we turn the check boxes off, they won't. Well, we want them there. Okay. And so we can put a number in here and run the program. So this number here is the number of shapes that we're going to draw. So we want to take that and we want to replace the 12 with this. And this is the number of sides that a shape is going to have. So we want to replace it with that. Okay. And we know that this is always going to be the number of sides divided into 360. Okay, so we need to do a little bit of arithmetic here, and that's what the operator section is for. And we need to do some division. So let's go down here, and instead of building a number in there, we're going to take 360. So click on the first box and type in 360, and I want to divide it by the number of sides. So let's go back to data here, and let's drag sides out there and drop it in the degrees box, or next to the degrees. And this one down here, we're also going to take 360, but we're going to divide it by the number of shapes. So we need to do another operator command. We're going to do division, so let's put that in there. And then this is going to be 360 divided by, and for this I want the number of shapes. Okay. And so we have done number 2, and then number 3. In the turn blocks, replace the value, we just did that. Make the inner turn 360 divided by sides, make the outer turn 360 divided by shapes. Okay, and now we want to turn our variables into sliders. So we want to right-click on shapes and tell it that we want it to be a slider. So we can take this and drag it back and forth. And once we made it into a slider, we can set the minimum and the maximum. So this is the number of shapes that I'm going to create. And we'll make the minimum at least 1. And we'll go up to 100, which is probably, if you do 100, it's probably going to be almost all lines here, and you might not be able to even see what the actual shapes are very well. So that's probably big enough. Okay. And then for sides here, we're going to right click on that. We're going to tell it we want it to be a slider. And we're going to right click on it again, and we'll tell it that we want the slider min and max on that. So how many sides do we want? Let's say if we go up to, you got to have at least 3 sides to make it a polygon. And let's go up, let's put in 36 here for now, and if you want to try a bigger number, that's easy enough to do. So right now it's set on one shape. Well, I'm going to do let's do 20 shapes. And for the number of sides, let's try 20 sides and see what we get. I missed the 20 up here, didn't I? Let's try. Yeah, it's a little touchy with that many options. Okay. Now let's run it and see what we get. And you see, even with 50 steps, because you're doing 20 sides, you don't turn very much each time, so you end up with a picture that is going to go clear off the screen here. So if you try a really big number like that, I guess you're going to have to try a smaller number here for the number of steps. So let's try 25 now. Let's run it and see what we get. And it looks like this will fit on the screen. And when you do 20 sides, they almost look like circles, but they're not. So we get an interesting figure here that almost looks kind of three-dimensional. It kind of looks like a donut almost. And that takes us to the end of page 25.